take a moment and look around. The phone or computer you're using, the clothes you're wearing, even the language you're thinking in, none of it would exist without one thing: our ability to think together. Humans aren't the strongest animals. We're not the fastest. We don't have thick fur or sharp claws. And yet, here we are, the most dominant species on Earth. How did we do it? Not through brute force, but through something much stranger: the ability to share ideas, build on them, and pass them forward. This is the story of how one simple trait, the ability to imagine things together, shaped everything we know. The mental leap that changed. 200,000 years ago, our early ancestors weren't that different from other primates. They hunted, they gathered, they survived. But then, something changed. A mental shift, a leap so powerful it would separate us from every other creature: the ability to think beyond the present. Unlike other animals, who mostly live in the moment, humans started thinking in stories. We imagined what might happen tomorrow, what others might be thinking, and what could be instead of what was. This led to something extraordinary: shared myths. Now, when we say myths, we don't just mean ancient gods or legends. We mean any belief that exists only because we all agree it does. Money. It's just paper until we all believe in its value. Nations? They're invisible lines on a map unless enough people recognize them. Laws, companies, religions, human rights, none of them physically exist. They are ideas, but ideas powerful enough to shape reality. And this ability to create and follow shared stories is what allowed us to form massive, complex societies that no other species could match. The birth of collective intelligence. For most of history, intelligence was about individual survival. A chimpanzee, for example, can use a stick to get termites out of a tree. A crow can bend a wire into a hook. But humans? We take one person's idea, improve it, and pass it on to the next generation. Take fire, for example. A single person could learn how to start a fire. But humans didn't just discover fire, we shared the knowledge. We taught each other how to make it, protect it, and even cook with it. Over time, we built on that knowledge until one day, we weren't just using fire. We were forging metal, baking bread, and launching rockets into space. This is called cumulative culture, the idea that knowledge stacks up over generations. No other species does this at our level. That's why we don't have to rediscover farming, electricity, or the internet every few generations. We inherit the knowledge of everyone who came before us. But here's the twist: none of this would work if we didn't trust each other. For cooperation to exist on a massive scale, humans had to evolve a deep instinct for trust. We needed to believe in the words, promises, and even the facial expressions of others. That's why we develop things like morality, reputation, and even emotions like guilt and shame, because they help us navigate social bonds. In fact, the real reason we might cry during a movie or feel empathy for strangers isn't just because we're emotional. It's because our survival has always depended on understanding the feelings of those around us. But trust is fragile. If we stop believing in shared stories, if we no longer trust institutions, governments, or even each other, things start to break down. History is full of civilizations that collapsed not because of war or famine, but because they stopped believing in the things that held them together. So what does this mean for us today? It means that every time you learn something new, share an idea, or work with others, you're part of the oldest and most powerful human trait: the ability to think together. We didn't get here by being the fastest or the strongest. We got here by being the best at learning, sharing, and believing in stories big enough to shape the world. But here's a question: what happens when we stop passing knowledge forward? In a world of misinformation, AI, and digital overload, are we still stacking knowledge, or are we losing it? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, hit subscribe, because the story of humanity is still being written.